Good morning. This is John from the Springs Mennonite Church again. I've been talking to you this week about Isaiah 41. I have two more times, today and tomorrow. And we've talked about some really, really good stuff in this book and in this chapter. So let me read another verse. Verse 18. The prophet says, God says, I will open up rivers for them on the high plateaus. I will give them fountains of water in the valleys. I will fill the desert with pools of water, rivers fed by springs which flow across the parched ground. Now, previously in verse 17, God had talked about helping those who were thirsty, and we talked about that yesterday. Thirsty for something is an imagery that's used in the Bible many times. You can watch the television and see all kinds of ads for when you're thirsty. Don't see many ads about getting water from God, but I guess that's another topic. But in this verse, God gets a little more specific. He says, I will open up rivers on the high plateaus. I will give them fountains of water in the valleys. And I will fill the desert with pools of water and rivers. You have the high plateau, you have the valley, you have the desert. All of these are places where you and I live. Some of us live in the high plateaus. That's up there in the, as they say, the rarefied air, where it's good and clean, and things look different from up here. My house sits on a hill in front of a really big valley. I can see about 5-7 miles across the valley. Every time I go to that end of the house, I look out the windows. I see something. Boy, it's interesting being up here. But you could be up in the top and on the peak and everything look rosy from where you are, and you're still not doing so well. So then we go down into the valley. Well, as I said, I can see this huge valley. When you're down there, you can't see my house. So you're in the valley, your vision is limited, what you can see. And in that place, you're kind of stuck with just the small little section that you might be able to visualize. And then it says that he'll go to the deserts and fill it with water. Have you ever been to the desert? I have. It's a dry place. Now, surprisingly, there is moisture there, and animals and plants do survive, not in great numbers, but they do survive by having some really strange and intricate ways of collecting water. So God says, I'm going to fill that up with pools. What I think this passage is trying to say to us is it doesn't matter where you are. God's going to provide you with sustenance that you need to live a fruitful life. Doesn't matter whether you're in the busy city or the boring suburbs or the just downright dull rural areas, as some people say. It's always something good to do. I remember years ago when I was teaching introductory sociology, I'd always ask the students to write a paper about themselves. What I found out was, didn't matter whether they came from New York City or they came from a farm or from a small town in the country. They all said, there really isn't much to do where I grew up. We always get dissatisfied and we want something else. Well, God here is trying to take care of that dissatisfaction by providing flowing rivers of water and renewing and strengthening and stuff that we need to keep plugging along and enjoying this goodness we call life. Think about your situation. You're on a plateau where you can see lots of stuff, or in the valley where your vision is limited, or out just in this dry desert where it almost seems nothing's alive. Those three descriptions describe where you and I live. You're in one of the three. I'm not sure what it is. You'll have to figure that one out. But wherever it is, God says, I will pour out water and flow across the parched ground. God will not leave you alone. He will not forget you. He will not walk away from you. That's part of what this chapter in Isaiah keeps saying over and over and over and over again. God's grace is always there, even if you can't see it. Will you think about that today? Think about what I've said this week. I got one more time, Isaiah 41. Take some time, go back and reread the whole thing. It's a story about God's care for you and for me. It's a pretty story. It's a blessed one. I hope it stirs your heart and stirs your whole self into wanting to get closer to Him. Thanks so much for listening. If you have a need or a concern, call us. We can't do everything, but whatever we can do, we'll get on it as fast as we can. That's a promise. God bless you. I'll be back tomorrow with one more lesson from Isaiah chapter 41. Take care.